Hello. Welcome everyone to the next lecture of data analytics using Excel. I am Dhruv. I will be your tutor for the day. By the end of this lecture, you will actually learn how you can use if statements in specifically in sum if and average if, because we will be building up on the next concept, that is charting, based on some of the concepts we'll cover right now. Majorly, before we actually start working with sum if and average if, people might get confused of when do we have to use them and not. So we'll actually start with another function, which is unique function, and we'll see why it is very practical to implement that first and then go ahead with sum if and average if. And what do we do when we actually work with average if and sum if? We'll just get dive into it. So if you can see my screen right now, there are a couple of things. First thing is, this is a case study into Superstore. This case study have been discussed, in the previous lectures also, so I will not be discussing what this entire data set is all about. Although I can see that there is need of some cleaning, which I will do now. And there is inconsistency in terms of the decimal points that I have. So I would like to complete all of that. So I'll select everything and I'll actually give 3 decimal places here. Okay, fine. Now the entire data set looks really good. Another thing which I might want you to focus on is these columns: ship mode, segment, country, region, and subcategory, right? And before getting into the unique function, you might actually have to understand when I actually say that you need to emphasize on these ones. When I say ship mode, and let's say I'm actually going for the filter option, you can see I only have 4 types of filter options. So what I'm trying to do using average if and sum if is, I'm actually trying to summarize the entire data set based on some of the parameters. So it will create a new table for me, just like how we are actually going with pivot tables. But now we're not going to use pivot tables for our particular example, but we'll be actually using sum if or average if for a purpose. Count if is another function which we can use. And we need to do that only and only on those particular columns where we have very less number of variations in terms of the types that we have. So right now I can see there are only 4 types of data points which are present. If I'm going with customer name, if I actually have to create an average if based on that, the table will be as big as it is right now. If not this big, a little smaller, but it will actually not be able to summarize everything better for me, right? And that's why ship mode, segment, country, these figures have only been taken, right? And if you actually have to see the syntax of unique function, so what it is actually doing, I actually went to Superstore, that is this particular sheet, because that's why Superstore, and then I have an exclamatory sign that says this is a sheet, the sheet name, and then I selected the entire column that contained data, and I actually got the unique values from the entire data set, right? And one thing that you might actually have to notice here is the entire unique function is taking only one argument here, right? Although there are some optional arguments that you can give, but for our purpose we don't need that, so we'll actually go ahead with only array function that we are giving right now. Second thing, all the functions which we were using before this, they were working in a particular cell, but when I actually create a unique function for the entire array, it will give me a set of values which are distinct from the array that I have inputted. So instead of actually going with these common ones, let's say you wanted to go with maybe, let's say, product name. Let's say you wanted to get the unique product names, right? So you will be able to understand which all products are being sold in your company in the first place. Unique products. Okay, so I will actually write unique, and then I'll actually go to Superstore again, and then I'm actually going to select this particular cell, that is P2, this product name, and actually have to go to Control Shift down arrow and then select everything, close it, and you can see a whole array is then in front of me, right? Now if I have to delete a particular row, I will not be able to do it because it's the entire function's output. If I have to delete the entire thing, then I have to go to the first cell where it is highlighted in black and not gray, like the second row or third row or whichever row it is, which is not primary. So whichever cell is the one where you are inserting the unique function, that will be highlighted in black, as you can see right now. The other ones will be highlighted in gray. That is when you are actually using this particular theme of Microsoft Excel. In your laptop, it might be a little different. It can be blue, green, or it can be black and gray, whatever it seems fine. But this will be a highlight for you to identify which particular cell you actually have to click to delete something. You can try it out. If I'm actually going to this one, I'll I'm clicking on delete, but nothing is exactly happening right now. But if I'm going to click here, you can see the entire thing got deleted right away, right? So we don't need that at all, right? So that's the first formula that we have to understand when we are working with big data sets like these. Actually, I'll just go like that. And I have taken only 5 arguments for now, although country is not required, so I will delete that because there's only one argument. Even if I have to summarize, all I can do is actually just give equal to average for the entire profit column or entire sales column, wherever I want to apply my entire statement. Second thing, I have applied this, and these are the arrays that I have received, right? So it will actually go through the entire arrays. Plus, you need to be careful with one thing, that you need not enter the header, right? So I'm always going with D2, that is the second row again, because it doesn't contain the header. The headers are contained in the first row. If I'm actually going to use the first array as well, it will actually give me the name of the header as well as region. So make sure you're not doing that one blunder. Second thing, this might seem like a very complicated formula to you right now, but trust me when I say that most of it is just very easy for you to understand. I've written the formula for SUMIF for ship mode already, but you will be able to understand it better when I actually going to tell you. So the first thing that you can see, I've actually added 3 arguments in this one. First is the range, then the criteria, and then I actually added the sum range. So let's say I wanted to get summarize the entire data set based on one particular column, that is ship mode. So ship mode will be my range, and the criteria will be mentioned in this particular cell, that is second class, standard class, first class, and same day. And that's why instead of actually looking through the entire data set and getting, okay, these are some of the values which I actually have to make sure that I'm writing in my Excel, it might have some spelling error or something. I actually use unique functions so that I can get everything by completely. And now I'm giving a reference of this particular cell. So initially what I did, I actually gave the reference that okay, go to range D2 and then select everything, and then based on this I want you to choose only second class, and all the values in front of you in column T, summarize them. So you will be able to get the profits of all of those transactions where the transaction was in second class, the ship mode was second class. When I'm actually going to scroll it down, you will be able to see that the reference of the profits as well as my ship mode is not changing. I have anchored it completely because once I'm going down, I don't want it to change at all, right? But the reference for the ship mode in this particular sheet is very dynamic. So when I'm actually going down, it is taking the new segment every single time. And now all I have to do is actually make sure that the decimal points are rightly aligned so that I can compare easily. And now I can see that the highest profits that we have attained is from the standard class, right? It is just like how we can use pivot tables, but it is something that you need to remember when you are actually working with Excel files sometimes, right? Because sometimes your boss might ask you to actually find the list of all the unique transactions which are happening, or get the sum of all of these and whatnot. You might actually have to use different innovations to actually work around with the same. Now the second thing is segment. Now initially what we were doing, we were actually going with SUMIF. Let's try to actually get the average now. So I'll click on average and you can see average. Okay, average. If I'm going to click on tab key, so I'm selecting everything. Second thing, I actually have to go to Superstore, and you can see I don't actually have to write the entire thing by myself. It is being written automatically, right? So I actually have to locate segment. Segment is in G column. So I actually have to give the reference from, okay, it got selected twice because I was fidgeting around with it. but I will delete this and click here, and then Control Shift down arrow to select everything, then comma. I'll come to unique and average SUMIF, and you can see the reference changed again. And now I want the segment to be consumer segment, and let's say I really want to get this, average of the revenue that I'm getting. So instead of actually going with the sum profits, okay, doing this, I'll actually go with sales. And from sales, I'll select everything and close the bracket. And now you can see the average sales that I have from consumer segment is $223.73. Now, one thing that you need to know is, let's say, again, I'm doing Control D here. The reference is going to change, and we do not want that because we need Q2 as well in our analysis. And that's why we're going to actually make sure that all of these are actually anchored. So I'll anchor all of these now. This need not be anchored, B2. And then we can anchor these. And now when I will actually do Control D, I can see that more or less the average sales from all of these segments is actually equivalent only. I need not worry much, right? But will that be same for a region? So, and we can test it out the same way we actually did right now, right? So instead of actually writing this entire formula again, what I usually prefer, because these figures are already being written for me, so I need not actually do the entire thing again. I will actually do Control C. I'll actually paste the formula here because I know all I have to do is just change this from B to C and click enter. Okay, there is an issue here because we do not have region in this particular area, and that's why we're getting an error of divide by 0. The second thing that we really want to focus on is this one. So we need to go and see which particular array is actually having region. And we can see that region is L column. And, we need to change it here. Let's change it to L. Change it to L. Click on enter, and now you can see the number is coming up because this is the range and this is the correct criteria. Initially, it was just the criteria, but the range was incorrect. And now the entire formula is there in front of me, and I didn't have to actually do everything by myself. Now coming back to this, you can see that there is slight variation now in terms of the average sales that I can see from region and segment. In segment it was very, very close, but in region I can see some variation from 215 to 241.8, right? We can do the same for subcategory, but that would be your homework for the day. That would be it for this lecture. I will actually come back to the same sheet where I have done the same analysis so that I can show you how things might work when you're actually working with charts. In the next lecture, we'll start working with charts. I hope you see all of you in the next lecture. If you have any doubts, you can contact me. Thank you for joining.